Hello, welcome to 2024's Christmas premiere featuring Tia's Crazy Craft Addiction. I just wanted to reach out to you live to let you know, please stay tuned all the way through. I did record a surprise ending, and I want you guys to go to Lizzie's World of Gym. She does have a YouTube page as well as a Facebook page, and make sure you guys hit that hashtag Lizzie is slipping after you guys have watched the premiere. Again, hashtag Lizzie is slipping. Hello. Welcome to Christmas 2024. This is Tia of Tia's Crazy Craft Addiction, and I am coming to you with a year in review of 2024. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed all of the premieres. You've gotten a lot of different takes on how people want to spend their holiday, and you've just had so much content to keep you company all throughout this premiere season. I am no different. So what I'm going to do, if you're new to my channel, definitely you want to hit that like and that subscribe button, and you want to come back and join me. I go live usually every other Wednesday, as it's been occurring. And I also have a morning laugh show that I run with Lizzie of Lizzie Worlds of Gym. Sorry about that. So you want to come back and you want to tune in on Wednesdays and every other Saturday so that you can have the laugh riot of the diamond painting community. We have been called the Laverne and Shirley of the diamond painting community, and some people call us the Thelma and Louise. So just to dig right in, I want to start off with, we kicked the year off with Blinging in the New Year. That will be returning for 2025, and it was so wonderful. Just a bunch of fun with me and J-Rob of DP Addiction Adventures and Tima, my goddess, of DP with Sparklers. We had an awesome time blinging in the new year, and one of the things that makes it really great is I get an opportunity to showcase some of my clay sculpting. And so I do have a pen. You guys have probably seen this if you've been around. I create, and this is specifically for blinging in the new year. So that will continue into 2025. One of the things that I noticed earlier in the year, this year, is that, my diamond painting had looked askew. It looked a little off and things like that. Meaning I would diamond paint, but it wasn't as often or as frequent as it had been perhaps in the past. And, other things were starting to prevail. What do you do when you notice that maybe life is happening and life is creating a new pathway that maybe derails you from some of your prior passions? For me, as I indicated, that was diamond painting. The focus, while it was there, it wasn't as tremendous and it wasn't as great as it had been in prior years. And the unfortunate part is when that occurs, we have to redirect. And so my redirection came from playing with clay, sculpting with clay a little bit more. Also, on top of it, there were other things that I was doing in the community. So this year I saw a lot of necessity to kind of give back. In the past, as a single mom, I had to raise my kids. And I had to give them structure, I had to give them guidance. And one of the things that I wanted to do was start to give back. There were so many people along my journey who helped me as far as the kids. They helped me find a home. They helped me, secure better schooling for my son as well as my daughter, so that they can go to schools that might have been outside of their realm. Given our situation and our location and things like that. There was always someone that was offering or extending a helping hand. I attribute that to myself, being an extremely hard worker. When I say I was a hard worker, I worked at one point 3 jobs. 2 of them were at home. Worked, you can always try and find a customer service type call center position. Especially, at that point, a lot of companies were, trying to move from brick and mortar. Now, we are in a new era right now. And that new era, unfortunately, means that a lot of companies, they're making the move to try and get their employees, their staff, back into an office environment. Maybe, it can be attributed to, what I like to say is it can probably be attributed to productivity. When numbers are down and things, we have to look at the why. Is it because everyone's at home, they're more relaxed? They're home doing what they want. I'm going to tell you guys, truthfully, there have been definite times where I, as a trainer or a supervisor, have had to conduct a work from home meeting, and I've seen far too much, far too much. At one point, there was a lady who was on the meeting, and her computer desk sat directly across from the door to the bathroom. And at one point in a meeting, the door was closed, but at one point in a meeting, the door opened, and her husband or significant other, he comes out completely in his birthday suit. And anybody in attendance, was there to be able to see everything. There's no way around, trying to describe it. We were able to see everything. And how embarrassing I would have said how embarrassing for him, but there was no shame at all whatsoever. As he's towel blotting his hair, he kind of grins into the camera and then just kind of walks off. He never put the towel around him. There was no shameful scream or screech or anything. And so I'm pretty sure you guys have seen commercials where they've spoofed things like that, and they've spoofed it because those were realistic moments that were actually occurring as, we tried to move into a, virtual environment and things. So it works for some companies, not for others. And when productivity is on the line, obviously, that's one of the first things we look at when it comes to trying to be more efficient, trying to be more productive. So there was no issue at all whatsoever with them trying, to get people back into the office. It's just, you had to be somewhere where you had a office. As they became more virtual, companies allowed people who might not have been in the same state or same location as the actual office, they allowed them to start to, work virtually and things. So when there's a call to arms to move the staff back into the office, what happens to those employees that were virtual? So obviously, it's been a year in review. I brought that up not, to kind of dive in, but, it does play a part in how my year, had summed up and things. But the nature of why I brought it up was because, I had a lot of work from home experience, and had it not have been for some of those work from home positions, I wouldn't have been able to help my children out and things. So those were great times, me being able to take care of them, to have the extra income needed to, to be effective, to be a good mom. And so shout out to a lot of the people who helped form, and helped, me get to a point where, there was some stability, I know people always say they need for their ends to meet, So with the help of others, my ends were meeting. And so I wanted to be able to give back. And that is what a lot of my earlier part of this year was about. I thank all of you who have followed along and gave me great suggestions. So I went to my apartment complex. When I first moved in, I moved in with 4 people. During that time, my mother left, And even though we were all equally going to share in taking care of the bills, that left me, with one less person to help pay for the bills. So I came up with an idea. It's something that I had done, when my children were young. So it wasn't new to me to have to get out and to have to go on another grind and come up with a way to make sure that we are taking care of the necessities. And I went to the complex and I asked them, hey, would you guys be willing to allow me to host, maybe some craft events for the youth in the community. Now, the kids in the community, they were running around. They were playing out in the parking lot. They were throwing, balls, rocks, and things like that. And the jeopardy behind that is, they could hit someone's, innocently parked vehicle and things. There wasn't a lot for them to do. It's not a playground. You have to leave, the area and walk a ways to get to some sort of playground. And so wanted to help, especially on the weekend where there's large blocks of time, I wanted to help come up with a way to inspire the parents to kind of hang out with their kids and come up with craft ideas. They could have a craft day. Me and my children had craft days when they were little. I wanted, I definitely didn't let them just go outside and run around. Was very cognizant. And so I wanted to create a situation where, parents, because there's a lot of, even though I stay in an apartment complex, it's an expensive apartment complex. So here, there are a lot of two-parent homes. The problem is they seem, it's expensive, so they're killing themselves probably just to make sure that they have, a nice place to live and things. So their kids, the children that do reside here, are often, by themselves. And I wanted to create an opportunity for children to come out, hang out with their parents, and get some fun. When my kids were little, we had one craft day a week, and that was always on Mondays. Now, as it got closer to the holidays, because we crafted a lot of our gifts, as it got closer to the holidays, like somewhere around October, we added a second day on, and that was Wednesday. So Mondays and Wednesdays were our craft days, and the kids really seemed to enjoy it. It gave them something to look forward to. I kept them with a busy schedule. That way they didn't have idle time. So we went to a program at our church, and they catered it for kids where they got to have, play games and things like that. And they used, biblical trivia and things to incite the kids. So they had that to look forward to, kind of play games, we crafted. And then on top of, crafting and things, I tried to teach them to be self-sufficient. They learned how to cook. So I wanted to kind of give back some of that insight to some of the families and things. It was a great idea. It was a great concept. A lot of you gave me some tips and things like that. What I began to notice, though, is that parents would show up. And when they showed up, they would drop the babies and they would leave. So I started to become the community babysitter. And I appreciate a lot of you guys' insight and, assistance, because as I started to notice that I was becoming the community babysitter, you guys gave me great ways to, maybe make additional suggestions and things like that. We kind of changed the crafting because maybe it wasn't fun, so we changed some of the crafting to other concepts and things. So we were doing candle making. Now, I will say, I'm not sure what occurred, but years ago, I did a candle making of not an event, but a craft with my kids. And when we went to the stores to buy our supplies, we noticed that there were a lot of men who were also in there looking for candle making supplies. Span to 2024, and we are, getting our candle making supplies. And that is something that we noticed again, even for the event, when we had the event. If you guys are, able to go back, I did do a show, and I mentioned it earlier this year that for the candle making, a lot of, or mostly all of the participants that came out were men. And so I definitely want to applaud the men in the community. They came out when it was a craft that appealed to them. We did soap making. We made collages. The collages also, I think men were looking for a way to maybe become a little bit more financially secure. So when we talked about doing collages and dream boards and things like that, they were coming out to learn better ways. And I am not a financial planner, so, it is what it is. It was a suggestion on my flyer. And so they came out with that goal in mind as to see how they could use collage making, planners and things like that to help with their finances and things. So I couldn't really, go into too much on the financial planning other than, at one point we tied in envelopes. So, you can go online, mostly Amazon, I've seen these on, where you can purchase envelopes, and those envelopes will allow you to put money into them. It's hard because these are cash savings, obviously. And the rationale behind it is that, you're moving away from a debit card system, a credit card system, and you're able to kind of see your money a little bit more. So you have a discretionary fund that's for whatever you want to spend it on. You'll put cash in there. You have a fund for your rent, a fund for your car payment, your car insurance, your utilities. You have all of those envelopes. And what we did was we tied them. My son actually made his collage catered towards that because a lot of the men in the community had reached out and that was their interest in things. And if you guys don't know, my son Justin, he started this channel with me. He's my crafter. My baby, my daughter, she doesn't craft as much. Now she's into other artsy things. She definitely enjoys singing. Not only does she enjoy singing, but she had an opportunity years ago to join a girl group. When she was younger, she was into acting, modeling, singing. And with that, she had a agent. And she won a show here locally called Las Vegas Rising Stars. And when that happened, it kind of opened up a lot of doors for her. So she got to model. She got booked for a few auditions, some heavy hitter auditions also. She auditioned to be on Hannah Montana. So these were really well-known auditions that she got an opportunity to kind of take part in. No, she wasn't successful and didn't get the part. But, we felt honored to even see who she lost out on parts for. So the part she auditioned for, she lost out on. There is a movie, I believe it's called The Game Plan, with The Rock. And The Rock has a daughter in that movie that he just found out about. And the movie entails, their relationship and things. That little girl also auditioned for the part that my daughter auditioned for, and she got the part. So, like I said, we were not upset at who got the part. I'm pretty sure there were others and things like that, but that is, who ended up with the part, and we were honored that she got to audition, amongst the ranks of somebody who was already acting in the field and things. My daughter did she had a successful modeling campaign here locally. She modeled for the art district. The art district was new and young in its infancy, and they were trying at that point to, for lack of a better way of explaining it, they were trying to build it up into an area where people wanted to come and hang out and things. And recently we got an opportunity after we moved up here to Vegas to go back to the art district and to see what it has become. And, just makes me want to, to cry, because she was a part of building something up. She had their modeling campaign. She won that opportunity, and it has come to, full fruition. So, it's so amazing to get the opportunity to see your children kind of see through some of their, their dreams and things. So I did get a chance to see that campaign come to its full fruition, and the art district is flourishing. So again, I say that just to, kind of reminisce a bit over, the fact that she does have some art in her. But obviously my son, he's the driving force. He helps me a lot with my crafting ideas. So we had an amazing time, trying to come up with ideas and things like that. But clearly, some of them for the men, just kind of, it helped out to have him along, for that crafting class and things. So he did do an envelope system where, and he did the collage. He created the, we put these on big, like, poster boards. The same way, we would work on a project back in high school, and things like that. So it was definitely a success and things, he wanted to save. He had a dollar amount in mind because that's the amount that he wanted to be able to put down on a car. He wants to buy a new car. And so it just kind of helped to have, a man along helping with the class. And I definitely appreciate that he was a man willing to do that. So kudos to my son. Thank you very much. We went on to do other things. We had, we hosted a pool party for the children and their families. The goal was get the families out so that they themselves are spending time with the children. Now, we did all the cooking, hamburgers, hot dogs. We had snacks, fruit roll-ups, and drinks and beverages and things. But it was still a lot because it was just me and my son. And we cooked for 80 people in mind. And so it was a huge success. But what I will say is the concept was a horrible concept because I live in Las Vegas and it gets up to about 118 here in the summer. And so needless to say, it was a good event. We had a great way of being able to kind of cool off. Obviously we jumped in the pool afterwards, but it was definitely a hot event. So thank my son for, kind of helping. In the interim, my job ended up having some programs that they were looking for people, to maybe go out into the community and, help out, volunteer with things of that nature. And they would donate up to $500 to any cause and things. So the good news is that, it brought an awareness that helped out. So some of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to also reach out into the community, and I wanted to have other members of the community come along so that they could assist with like counseling, not only financial health and things like that, but maybe mental health. And then a lot of the families that were coming to my event, I noticed that they were larger families. So mom and dad are killing themselves to work and to be able to afford the rent. But on top of mom and dad, busting butt, they might have 6 kids. They might have 5 or 4 kids. There were larger numbers of children in these families than maybe a traditional, family, a mom and dad with 2 kids and things like that. So because of that, it can create a situation where, finances are always called into question and things like that. There might be items and things that might be missing in the household. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to do a food pantry for healthy snacks and things. And what I loved about the food pantry idea was that other members of our community, not just myself, not just the other coordinator that was running the program with me, but other members of our community stepped up and started to donate and started to, want to help out and things. So when it first started, it was an idea and a concept to just, get families out there spending time with the kids, because the kids were running around. They weren't doing much, causing havoc. Somebody scratched up my car one day. a young fellow. He scratched up my car, and you know, I called the cops, and I had the cops come and talk to him and things like that. Normally he's just out there bored and alone by himself. So when the cop came, I wanted them to talk to the mom. That was my whole goal. I didn't want to go knocking on the door. I didn't want to have an uncomfortable conversation, you know, to where tempers were flared and things like that. So I wanted the cops to kind of intervene, you know, but also to get on record that, you know, something occurred, you know, because there was a lack of supervision. So I wanted that at least on record and things. The next thing that ended up occurring was, no, I don't want any money. I can always, you know, have my own scratches fixed and things like that. It's not cheap, and nor, you know, do I want to take on another scratch. However, I understood right away, you know, that this is a child that, you know, is really off on their own, bored, no, you know, parental supervision. And there was reason behind that. Mom's working, she's busting her butt, and they live here, but with someone else, another family member. And so with that, you know, can come other things, feeling unwanted, someone not making you feel welcome, you know, footprint, you need to get out. I had to stay with a relative for a month, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I was transitioning from one home to another home. I was moving from one apartment to another. I told my kids to go stay with their dad during those 6 weeks. They did not want to. So it was just me who would have had to worry about the footprint and things. And I remember, while it was never said to me, you know, or anything, I remember focusing so much on the footprint. Like, I don't want anyone feeling uncomfortable in their own home when they come in and they want to relax. I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, you know. So how I did that was I stayed gone as much as possible until it was time to come in, shower, and go straight to sleep. And I feel like that was the case. And the young, you know, the young boy, I think he was 8 or 9. He, unfortunately, was left to his own devices. Just leave, come back when it's, you know, dark or something like that. And so I had made a suggestion that he come and he help out with my next few events. And he did. And one of the most heartwarming stories that I recall of the year was I had a Mother's Day, Mommy and Me facial, where they came and they brought their mom, their grandmother, their whoever the female in their life was that played that mom role. They brought them, and they are going to be able to not only do a facial with them, but they had a gift bag of all the same items that they would be able to take home, and they would be able to do facials at another time. So the little boy, now this is a few months later, he's already helped out, he's already paid back, you know, based on how I, you know, had suggested. He came, he helped, he moved a lot of boxes and things. So I have this facial in me, and he comes and he brings his aunt. And the aunt is who, you know, kind of is looking out for him and things like that when mom's not around. He introduced her to me, and they did the facial and things. He's a young baby, and so one of the items that he tried to use on his face, it did cause him to break out one of the masks, you know, and we pulled the mask off. We did get him another mask, one that had aloe, and that one worked a lot better for him. But so he comes in, you know, he's got auntie, you know, with him and things like that. And after the event was over with, and he is, you know, cleaning up and things, he asked if he could have a bag to take to his mom. And I said, absolutely, you can have a bag to take to your mom. And he comes over to get the bag, and he hugged me and said, thank you. And I said, oh, no worries. And he said, not for the bag, for everything that you have been doing. Thank you. And he was 8. And it warmed my heart so much because I felt like he got it. He got why I was there. He got why I was doing it. You know, I was hoping that it was a heartfelt lesson for parents to receive, you know, oh, wow, this is something she's doing amazing, you know, with, you know, creating these connections here in the community for us to be able to, you know, kind of share with our families and take back to our households and things. And it came from the baby, you know, he got it. I see him all the time. He comes up to me. If I'm struggling with bags, like to take into the house or something, he comes up to, how you doing today, Miss Tia? I'm fine. How are you? Not getting in no trouble, are you? No, ma'am. You know, and it went from something that could have been bad, you know, to, and his responses when he, you know, so my daughter was leaving and she saw him out on the side of my truck. And she said, "Ma, I think he got a rock, and I think he's scratching your truck up, the new truck, Butterfly, that you guys hear me talk about all the time, that truck." And I'm like, "What? No, you know." And I go, you know, and sure enough, he's out there, and he didn't deny anything. He's not a liar. He's very truthful, very honest. He just, you know, bad. And I said, "Are you out here scratching up my truck?" He said, "Yes." I didn't scratch it that bad though. That was what he said. And I'm like, "What?" And I called the cops because I knew at that point, you know, how upset I was. It wasn't going to go well with me trying to talk to Mom and things. So I called the cops. 2 cops came. One was a male, one was a female. The female was like, you need to take us back to your house. And she left to go talk to Mom. And the male, he stayed and, you know, took notice and everything like that. Basically, I think he was there to calm me down. So as we got to talking and things, and I was saying, you know, this is a neighborhood full of hardworking individuals. You know, you can look into the parking lot and see the types of vehicles. You know, it wasn't a lot of disabled, broken down vehicles. These were like people's life, you know, dreams and stuff. There were Audis, you know, Range Rovers, you know, just lots of, you know, pickups. Those are, you know, life dreams and things. And I told the officer, you know, I don't want to argue. I want to see that there's an acknowledgement so that this doesn't occur again. And he agreed and stuff. So to see it go from that day, you know, tempers flared, me, you know, upset, to the little boy coming up and hugging me and thanking me for the things that I had done. And I hadn't done much. I just wanted to put into a space, you know, just, I guess, an acknowledgement that, hey, we have our youth out here raising themselves. Let's tend to them as a community. And he got it. You know, and it was very touching, was very heartwarming. If you guys watch Nick's Notions, she comes on Saturday nights. She kind of followed the story from the start, you know, and so we talked about it on one of her shows when it first occurred, you know, and then I told her my suggestion for him coming back and, you know, kind of needing to help out and things. And then she asked about him on one of the summer shows and things, and that was one of the things that we talked about, and how paying it forward sometimes, you know, it may not necessarily come in the form of cash assistance. You know, a lot of people think when they pay it forward, you know, let me go ahead and buy something from here or buy something from there. And so it didn't necessarily come from, you know, financial paying it forward, but just a life lesson and things like that. So that was a very rewarding part of my summer. My year. That program continued up until September. And then come September, my complex said that they did help fund, You know, they did help fund a lot of the items. I had a company card where when I had an idea, you know, we had a meeting. If it was approved, it was okay, then I was, you know, free to just go out and buy all of the items necessary to make that concept, you know, become a reality. And so because of that, you know, it definitely gave me the opportunity a lot of times to be able to, you know, put in like contests. I did a lot of contests, giveaways. I did a lot of giveaway items. So I found myself always buying gift cards, game cards, things to entice families to come out. At one point, I hosted a bingo. There were other people who were trying to come into the program. They wanted to, you know, be able to maybe get their ideas out and stuff. It was a great program. It was a great idea. And again, I did it to help, you know, because they did give me up to $300 off of my monthly rent. So for each class that I hosted, I could host up to 3, you know, crafting events per month. I got $100 off. And obviously, you know, I tried to get the full amount. So it was a great idea. It was a great concept. And then other people, you know, were like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. And so they would come with their ideas and things. And a few times there were people who, they really challenged me and they really tried to like hone in on my program. I was upset. There were, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a paint and sip that someone hosted. Now keep in mind, my program was always for the community. And I definitely wanted the adults to come out and be a part of, because I didn't want to be the community babysitter. But it was designed to be an event for the moms and dads and the kids. And someone had a paint and sip concept, which was a great idea. I mean, I could not compete with how many people this person had at their event. But they had a live nude model, and they also provided the libations. So they provided the wine, and I can't compete with a nude model. I was so upset, but I came to the community again, and I reached out to you guys, and you know, came back with, you know, some more ideas and things like that. The unfortunate part was it was a huge success. Huge. There's nothing that I could have done to, you know, get around it, because, you know, who amongst us as youth wouldn't want to go to a paint and sip where there's going to be a live nude model, okay? And it was a male. And so it was very, very successful. Like the largest number of people I ever had at an event, besides the pool party, was 32. And there were over 50 people at this event. And obviously, you know, it gave the complex an opportunity to kind of reflect on what they could be hosting and what they could be a part of in the community and things. And so because of that, you know, they started to want to go in a different direction when it came to, you know, how they spend the funds and what they make available to the community and things. So that was some of the reason why, you know. The other reason is because other people were wanting to get in on the program, you know, here in the community. You know, I'm probably the Medea of the community at this point. Not that I want to be a 6 foot tall, you know, man looking woman. But I believe that, you know, that is maybe the concept of, you know, who my character started to become to some of the kids and some of the family and things like that. So not that I mind, you know, because again, I wanted a community where people could be brought together. When other people started to want to be a part of that program and they were donating, I had in August the back to school event where I and my son and my daughter, I was very happy that my daughter found an event that she wanted to be a part of with me and my son. We did a back to school backpack program where we helped the children with all of the needs. Obviously, there are a lot of families here that have a multitude of kids. There's very few of them that only have one or two. Mostly 3 or 4, but there's a substantial amount that also has 5 and 6 kids also. That's a lot of children to have to buy school supplies for. And so we had come together. My job donated the $500. My kids also donated. They bought 3 backpacks apiece and all of the supplies inside. And then a lot of our community, they had started to see that there were events. When people were coming to like the candle making, the mommy and me facials, they were showing up. We did we did like a Family Feud style game. We had a bingo night and things. We were getting the community together. And so when people saw that, and there were figures, they were starting to say, "Hey girl, I ain't seen you since the last event. Hey Miss Tia, how you doing?" It really did start to create a community. And that is something that I hadn't thought of at the time that, I wanted the event to take fruition. I was being selfish, and I actually was just trying to get some money off on mine, but it was a great idea. And I said, in the interim, we can get these kids out of the parking lot and get them inside, because weekends are the time where they had the most idle time. After school, there's programs after school if they're able to, kind of stick around and things. But one of the things that we definitely noticed was that weekends, there's just a lot of idle time and things. So this was an awesome way to be able to, get them, get that idle time kind of taken away and give them something to do. And so other people were wanting to be a part of that. And that is where the process and the program really started to kind of take off. And so from there, I made sure that I got everything taken care of. But my kids, when they came out and they helped out, I remember I wanted to give as many backpacks as possible. But I had a number based on how much I could afford, based on how much donations. I had a number that I had to hit. And I got to 30. And I still felt like it's not enough, it's not enough. A couple of these families have 6 kids each. That's 12 right there. A couple of these families have 5. That's 22, What about the other families? Some of them have 2, some of them have 3, I'm trying to get as many as possible. My 2 kids come along. And like I said, each of them, they paid to have 3 backpacks each. And then there were some families in the community, grandmas and things like that. They came out. They bought backpacks. Unfortunately, they didn't get the group discount and things like that. But they bought backpacks and things. They brought supplies and stuff. And we were able to have like raffles and giveaways with some of the backpacks that, they looked a little bit nicer than maybe the ones I got group discounts and I bought in bulk. And because I did that, a lot of the backpacks were similar in nature, different colors, but similar in nature. And so I say that to say that, we all could come together, not just in my community, but other communities and things like that, kind of reach out and see what it is that we can do to give back. That was a huge part of my 2024. I felt great. What I noticed that ended up occurring was it didn't just turn into an opportunity for me, to give back and for families to come together, but they started to take it upon themselves to also do things and to give back. And what more can you ask for when your community starts to come together and they look out for one another and they're trying to meet the needs of others as well. So I want to continue that into 2025, and some of the outreach programs that I'm looking into are, obviously domestic violence, and I'm a huge proponent of that. If you guys followed a couple of premieres ago, I did write a poem that I dedicated for domestic violence. And so I'll insert that in here. And then also homelessness. If you guys don't know my story, I have shared that me and my children were facing homelessness after my husband first walked out. And because of that, it's huge to me. It's huge. And I'm always looking for ways to kind of give back in that community in that regard as well. So stick around, stay tuned, because there are going to be a lot of communications about that, what can be done not only in my town to where, I was affected, but, what does that look like for you? This is a different day and age, and the pandemic has impacted so many in so many different ways. There used to be a strong push as a young adult to move out and get your own. I don't hear that talk anymore. So again, as I continue into 2024, that's definitely going to be one of the realms that I want, to associate myself with. And stick around. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I indicated that I was going to have something a little special for you at the end of the video. You guys keep riding me on not having a complete, so I'm going to sit this right here. This is a complete 2 separate canvases for 2024. And with that said, I indicated that I was going to write to you guys about a poem or read the poem that I wrote, and it is specific to domestic violence. I do like to bring awareness to that series. It is something that's important to me. So I'm going to kick it off and just read the poem that I wrote. It's called Out of the Shadows. The phone was hung back on the hook inside the phone booth. She lowered her head and rested her forehead on the back of her hand. That's when the shaking started. As she tried to slow the shaking of her hands and calm her breathing, she felt a wetness pull around the base of her nose. She reached her hand up to discover blood leaking profusely. She stepped back and reached down into her backpack to get a napkin or tissue or even the sleeve of her favorite sweatshirt, now ripped up and torn to pieces. That's when the flash of him grabbing her by her sweatshirt and tearing it popped into her head. Why? She thought to herself. He's never exhibited any signs of anger or aggression. As she held the sleeve to her nose to mop up the pouring blood, another memory popped into her mind. I'm used to getting my way, he said, after he'd shared stories of besting his high school buddies. She remembered congratulating him. Oh, honey, there's no congratulations needed. I will work as hard as needed to get what I want. Oh, how she wished she'd seen that glint in his eyes then, that showed up again in his eyes tonight. What started out so simple, a lab partner that she was paired with all semester, the worst partnering in the history of the university. Oh, how she hated athletes. But he did prove to be different than the others. For starters, he'd opened a book before. He prepared for the lesson and didn't leave all the work on her. He brought intelligence to their debates and could support his own hypotheses. Being the president of his fraternity also meant he was a leader, an activist, and a civic organizer. The way the girls fell at his feet and all the dates he was always chatting about, she was in no jeopardy of tempting him. She certainly never gave a second look in his direction. As they were now nearing the end of the semester, it was not out of the ordinary for them to check on their growth project and test their theories. She never questioned why their seed project was planted and grown in his niece's apartment just outside of town. She never requested his notes when he stated he'd go and check on their growth progress. Tonight was the culmination of all their hard work, the fruits of their labor. They were simply going to check their results and cross-reference against their hypothesis. The surprise on her face when he pushed her into the wall next to their project seemed to excite him further. He lunged at her, reaching to grab a hold of her favorite sweatshirt as she tried to escape his grasp. He grinned and screeched, "Oh, you're a fighter. I never would have figured." The headlights flashed her back to the phone booth. By now, she was kneeling next to her backpack, with her back resting against the lower glass panel of the booth. She strained through a swollen eye to see if the headlights belonged to her dorm's roommate. The car passed, and it wasn't her roommate. She got to her feet and walked outside the phone booth. She could hear someone's music off in the distance and the whir of traffic as it passed by. She needed to move. She was looking around a quiet, dark place. She hovered next to a tree just outside of the closed electronics store. The horror of tonight was beginning to dawn on her. The embarrassment, and more importantly, the shame washed over her. As the lights of her roommate's car came into vision, she stepped back into the shadows. And I wrote a second poem also dealing with domestic violence. So I'm going to transition to that. Jade heard every step echoing as she walked down the long hallway. She stood just outside the doors and looked up into the bright halogen light. I remember every one of those beautiful gifts. The bracelets, earrings, and necklaces were divine. All the diamonds, sapphires, and rubies were so beautiful in the way they sparkled. I remember the joy I felt when I saw that sparkle of jealousy all of them felt when I shared my love's newest purchase. She thought. No one would ever have guessed. How could they? Every one of those beautiful baubles were her personal badge of armor. These badges weren't worn during her battles like an actual soldier. They were more a display of her hard-fought battle. She thought about how long it took for each of her battle wounds to heal and disappear. She closed her eyes and lowered her head. She couldn't believe she was here today. She stood outside the courtroom doors, tears streaming to ruin her makeup for the third time today. How could she have prevented this? She found herself thinking so much over the last year. She thought she was hiding her pain, hiding her embarrassment, hiding her shame. She didn't think it was anyone's business about her life and what she worked so hard to keep hidden. Every blow she took from him, destroyed her inside and out. She questioned her ability to think, her ability to make decisions, and her ability to show her own vulnerability and frailty to anyone she knew. She tried to hold her head high as rumors swirled around her about what she suffered and was going through. But how could she walk away? She was his speechwriter. She was his stylist. When he got blackballed in the industry, she became his manager and helped rebrand him. And when he won that multi-million-dollar contract and left her for another woman, she held her head up high. She put on a brilliant performance and told no one the ordeal she suffered. She shook her head. No, she told herself. She pushed through the doors and walked down the aisle to the witness stand. She blindly walked through the motions of swearing in and taking her seat. When the prosecutor spoke, he asked, "Jade, can you tell the court why you are here today?" Jade swallowed and began slowly. "I had no idea how hiding my shadows of shame so detrimentally could have impacted her life. All I can think about is, had I have talked about my shame, talked about my embarrassment, talked about my abuse, and stepped out of the shadows, I wouldn't be here testifying against my ex. I wouldn't be facing the man that beat my baby sister to death and left her lying on the floor in front of their 3-year-old son and wishing for his death instead. Because she would have known and she would have left." 2 different lives, both with the same need. Someone to talk to. Someone to help them step out of the shadows of their embarrassment so that they can get help for themselves and perhaps help someone else. I'm sorry to end the premiere on such a sad, deep moment, but these are items that are near and dear to my heart. Domestic violence. I feel that communicating about it and bringing out the stigma to where women feel shame and embarrassment is something that I want to always critically, implore others to do. So if you are still around, there is another premiere coming up after me. I just wanted to take that moment to bring awareness during this time. We all have loved ones. If we ourselves, don't have anything that we can connect to, make sure you share this story. It was written based on 2 real people that are near and dear to me. So hopefully you guys have had a wonderful time on the premieres of 2024. Make sure that you guys get this message out to Lizzie of Lizzie Worlds of Gems. We're going to hit her up and we're going to remind her that yes, Tia did have not 1, but 2 completes for 2024. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your holiday.